Would you mind paying if you want to hold Lucas? After all, you two are practically strangers to him." "What?" My husband and I were utterly stunned. Never in our wildest dreams did we imagine we'd have to pay our daughter-in-law to hold our own grandson. "My name is Michelle, a 56-year-old homemaker. I live with my husband, who's also 56. We have one son, Tom, who's currently 28. He got married 2 years ago. His wife, Sarah, is 10 years his senior at 38. After graduating college, Tom got a job and moved out on his own. Apparently, Sarah, a senior colleague at his workplace, aggressively pursued him from the get-go. Tom has always been strong in STEM subjects. Throughout high school and college, he was immersed in them. Shy and reserved by nature, he had never dated a woman before. Suddenly, pursued by an older woman at work, Tom was initially reluctant. However, Sarah kept pushing, inviting him to lunch, finding reasons to be near him, and eventually they started going out for drinks. Things escalated quickly from here. When we heard that Tom was marrying a woman 10 years his senior, my husband and I were shocked. But it was Tom's choice, and considering his reserved nature, we thought maybe it was a good thing to be led by an older woman. As wedding preparations progressed, we encountered some surprises. Sarah insisted on changing outfits 5 times during the ceremony. Of course, it was all Sarah's idea. Tom, not one for the spotlight, wasn't thrilled about even having a wedding. But Sarah had her dreams, and one of them was those 5 outfit changes. "It's a once-in-a-lifetime wedding. I won't settle for less. A bride is like the star of her own fairy tale, you know. Tom needs to make all my dreams come true." Faced with this, Tom felt he had no choice. The wedding ended up costing much more than anticipated, draining most of the savings Tom had accumulated since started working. During the 5th outfit change at the reception, a male relative whispered to us, "I've never seen a wedding with so many outfit changes. Tom's pretty much wrapped around her finger. He's in for a tough time." I could only laugh. But his words echoed our own thoughts. People complimented Tom on his beautiful wife, but she also seemed quite proud of her beauty. As parents, we couldn't help but worry about their future together. 2 years post-marriage, they had a baby boy. It had been a difficult birth, but we were thrilled when the baby arrived safely. The day after the birth, we rushed to the hospital. Outside the delivery room, Tom seemed restless and uneasy. "Tom, congratulations! That's wonderful!" "Ah, yeah, thanks." "I can't wait to meet the baby. Mind if I come in?" "Well, about that..." "What's the matter? Something wrong?" "No, it's just... Sarah's really tired right now and doesn't want visitors." "What? So we can't see the baby?" "Oh, no." "Alright then. No choice, I suppose. I'll take some photos and send them to your phone." "What about Sarah's parents?" "They came by earlier." "So they got to meet the baby?" Yeah." "So we're the only ones who can't. Can't you let us have a peek? Just a quick one. It seems like blood relatives and in-laws are treated differently. Sorry, but could you leave for today?" "Fine." Tom looked really uncomfortable. Likely, Sarah had asked him to decline visitors from inside the hospital room. Disappointed, we had no choice but to head home. Our son sent us a photo of the baby. Such a cute sleeping face. Seeing it made both my husband and me even more eager to meet the baby. I'd love to hold my first grandchild in my arms. I timed it around Sarah's and the baby's discharge and called my son to arrange a meeting, but we didn't get a favorable response. Sarah would be taking the baby to her parents' home for a while, so it would be difficult. So we waited for the day Sarah would return to their apartment from her parents' home. The baby was named Lucas. Finally, the time came for Sarah and Lucas to return after receiving postnatal care at her parents'. We got our son to agree, and finally, we were going to meet our grandson. We bought clothes, baby gear, and toys for Lucas. On the day of the visit, we went to our son's apartment. "Hello, may we come in?" Upon entering, we saw Lucas on his baby bed. He was energetically moving his arms and legs. He was a cheerful boy. What a lively boy. He's really cute. Next to the baby bed, Sarah stood with a sullen face. Could I hold him for a bit?" Sarah remained silent. Then Tom spoke. "Mom wants to hold Lucas, is that okay?" My son repeated my request to Sarah. He seemed like he was really treading on eggshells around her. Finally, the silent Sarah spoke. "You two are strangers to me. If you want to hold Lucas, will you pay?" What? We were frozen in disbelief. Strangers? Yes, I married Tom, but you are strangers to me and to Lucas. I don't want him casually held by just anyone. If you insist on holding him, I guess we'll have to set a fee." "A fee? But Lucas is our grandchild." "Exactly. And Sarah, didn't your parents get to hold Lucas?" "Of course, they're my parents." "In that case, we should also—" "Look, I'm talking from my own perspective here. I married Tom, not the two of you. You're complete strangers to me. What if you drop Lucas or somehow get him sick? How are you planning to take responsibility?" "Responsibility, you say?" "I'm on maternity leave now, but I've been with my company for years, always managing risks. To let a newborn be held by complete strangers who have no intention of taking responsibility is naive, don't you think?" Sarah's condescending tone left us, including my husband, dumbfounded. People with your mentality wouldn't last a day at my company. Also, just because Tom and I married doesn't mean we're all suddenly a family. I like to keep boundaries clear. Do you understand? Sarah gesticulated with us as she told us. Sarah animated gestures as if scolding subordinates. She seemed not only good-looking, but also very confident in her long-standing career. She probably talks like this at work too. You could easily guess what the power dynamics between her and Tom, who was 10 years younger, must have been like in their workplace. That hierarchy seemed to have transferred to their marriage. Tom looked surprised at Sarah's words and gave us an apologetic look. But he couldn't muster up any words to counter her. "Let's just go." "All right." And so we left Tom's apartment without even getting to hold Lucas. We had our concerns before, but we never thought it'd come to this. We realized Sarah wants nothing to do with us, and Tom seems completely controlled by her, unable to voice his own opinions. It's harsh to call us strangers, isn't it? Yeah, I never thought we'd hear something like that. Pay money if you want to hold your grandson. But Lucas was so cute. He was. We had this conversation on our way home. Even after we got home, we couldn't stop talking about what had happened. We concluded that there is no other choice but to let go of our hopes. Obviously, in an ideal world, we'd get to hold our grandson and have a good relationship with our son and daughter-in-law. But with everything spelled out like that, we've got to move on. True, At the end of the day, Tom chose to marry Sarah. Yes, what's important is that they're happy. I won't harbor wishes like wanting to hold our grandson or having family dinners anymore. Although I was concerned about whether Tom is really happy in such a situation, I realized it's not our place to question our son's marital choices. If that's how Sarah feels, we have no choice but to adapt. If we forcibly try to do anything, it might make Tom uncomfortable. And so, we lost contact with our son's family. 2 years passed like this. Then one day, we received a call from our son after a long time. "Hello, Mom, it's been a while." "Tom, how have you been?" "Oh yeah, I'm alright. What's going on?" "Well, Sarah and I are thinking about moving out of our apartment and buying a house." "Oh, really?" "Yeah, so I was wondering if you could help us out financially." "What?" I listened as Tom explained the details. After Sarah's maternity leave ended, she returned to work, but she had conflicts with a co-worker who had stepped up in her absence. In the end, Sarah quit her job. Now, she's a stay-at-home mom. After that, Sarah seems to have met other moms through her children. Sarah made some mom friends and got inspired by one of who lived in a house, not an apartment. She got excited about moving into a better home. After some house hunting, Sarah fell in love with a newly built home. Tom wasn't exactly thrilled, given their financial situation, but Sarah pushed ahead almost to the point of signing a contract. The down payment was higher than expected, which was a problem. Sarah suggested asking for our help. Sarah says it's a parent's duty to help out when their child is stuck. When we said we wanted to see our grandchild, she told us to pay up. Now she wants our help. Convenient, isn't it? I do feel bad about that. Well, let's put that behind us. As for the money, I have no intention of helping. Oh, alright then. If you can't afford it, live within your means. If you need parental support for something, maybe it's better to skip it. You're right, Mom. You've always been sensible, Tom. I don't know why you even had to ask. I guess so. Sorry for the awkward request. More importantly, are you happy right now? I'm not sure. Tom ended the call. The next day, the doorbell rang. My husband was out and I was home alone. Sarah showed up. Tom was with the kids at a nearby park. I needed to talk to you, my mother-in-law. What is it? Tom said you won't help us financially. That's correct. Don't you think that's harsh? Your own son is asking for help. The house will be under his name. He is the breadwinner. How can you ignore him? Isn't that too cold? I was taken aback for a moment when Sarah barged into my house and started giving me a piece of her mind. Just my luck, my husband isn't home. It's just me. I braced myself, realizing that I had no choice but to stand my ground. Sarah, what gives you the right to walk into this house? Huh? Weren't we total strangers? Sarah froze, locking eyes with me but saying nothing. My son can buy or live wherever he pleases. It's none of my business. He's an adult. If he can't afford it, then he should live within his means. Especially when it comes to you, a complete stranger, telling me to fund his home purchase. I have no such obligation. But your son is actually struggling financially. Are you going to abandon him? Indeed, Tom has left the nest. Sarah was dumbfounded and silent. Moreover, it's not just Tom's house. It's where you will live too, right? Why should we help someone unrelated like you? Shouldn't you be asking your own parents for help? My family can't afford to help right now. Then you should give up on buying a house and stay in your current apartment." At this, her face turned red and she looked furious. "Isn't it a parent's role to help out at times like this? Sorry to disappoint. It's different from your ideal, just like you're different from mine." "What? Are you saying I'm not your ideal daughter-in-law? How rude! You've been rude too. Remember when you told us to pay up if we wanted to hold our grandchild? How dare you say that to your in-laws?" "I'm not really matched with my husband, am I?" "What?" "I rushed into marriage because I was 36 and desperate. I married Tom because he seemed obedient. To be honest, any groom would have done at that time. So I think he should be grateful that a high-level woman like me married an average guy like him." "Wow, you actually said that out loud. Don't you agree? It's a miracle that a woman like me is married to a man like him. That's why I believe it's natural for me to live in the house of my dreams." "So you wanted to brag about owning a home? So what? Isn't that normal? Yet here we are. Tom can't even make the down payment. I told him to ask his family for help, but everyone's so useless." Just then, Tom walked into the living room. Tom, when did you... Were you listening this whole time?" "Yes, I was curious about what was going on because I heard loud voices. I've been listening at the front door. So that's why you married me, Sarah." Sarah was visibly startled when Tom burst into the room. Tom's previous look of confusion was gone. His eyes seemed calm, but there was a distinct undertone of anger. "Mom, could you play with Lucas in the other room for a bit?" "Sure." I took Lucas into the adjacent room and closed the door. This was the first time I was directly interacting with Lucas. Voices from the living room started filtering through the door. "I've reached my breaking point." "Breaking point? Do you mean what you said earlier? Who do you think you are?" "What with that tone, Tom? You think it's okay to speak to me like that?" "Enough." "What? You should be grateful you even got to marry someone like me, a man who's never even had a girlfriend before." "Grateful? Weren't you the one who said you'd marry anyone who came along? You should be the grateful one." I'd never heard Tom raise his voice like this before. Something must have severely damaged his ego, or perhaps he was letting out pent-up frustrations. "You kept saying you loved me, chasing me around. At first, I was hesitant, but then thought I could build a family with you. Turns out, you just wanted to use me to say you're married. You never even loved me, bossing me around and even telling my parents they should pay if they want to see their grandson. And now you want them to help us buy a house. Knowing all this makes everything seem ridiculous." Sarah seemed a bit flustered hearing this. "I didn't say that was all true." "Lies. I'm done being deceived and used. Our marital power dynamics were skewed from the beginning. I'm not living just to be controlled by you. And I don't want Lucas to grow up seeing such a pathetic mom. It's over. Let's separate." "What? No way. I absolutely want to live in that house. I finally found my dream home. I can't give it up. I've always dreamed of inviting friends over for home parties. A loveless marriage in a fancy house just leads to unhappiness. If you want to show off so badly, buy a house yourself. Don't act so high and mighty. Don't command me. That's my line." Such an intense battle unfolded in our living room. I had never seen my son this fired up. Later, it turns out that Sarah had been having several affairs with her former boss. She would sneak out during the day to meet him while leaving Lucas at her parents' home. Learning this, Tom was completely dumbfounded. She was the kind of woman who had a lot of pride, but she was also had a weakness for men who complimented her looks and treated her as if she were special. That was the final straw. Tom and Sarah got officially divorced. Lucas ended up living with Tom. Instead of buying her own house, Sarah found herself being sued for alimony by Tom. She did manage to find a job after some job hunting, but couldn't get along with people, so she quit. Now she seems to be bouncing from job to job. Her looks, once her pride, now seem to have faded away. Since Tom was busy with his work, my husband and I took over caring for Lucas completely. Mom, I'm really sorry for all the trouble I've caused. I should have been more careful in choosing a life partner. That's okay. Everyone makes mistakes, but we all have to cooperate to raise Lucas well. You're right. I'm just glad to see you've become such a responsible adult, Tom. You think you're a much more reliable person now than when you just listened to whatever your wife said. If Lucas grows up seeing a father like that, he's bound to turn out to be a fine adult as well. And so, we live happily as a family of 4, my husband, my son, Lucas, and me. I take great joy in being able to help my son and grandson. Tom is still young, and I secretly hope she meets someone who truly loves and supports him, and, of course, cherishes Lucas too.